Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the afternoon session of Beyond Pink. I hope everybody had a really great break and you're feeling rested and ready for a great afternoon session. For those of you who weren't present at the morning, my name is Haley Gray. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm calling in today from Seattle, Washington. I'm a recent college graduate from UC Berkeley, where I received a BA in legal studies and minor in ethnic studies. While I was in school, I continued working remotely with JFG, and I've been involved in the organization for about 5 or 6 years. I love working here. The people here are so incredible, and I'm really excited to welcome you all into our community today. And since we're in this virtual space, we just want to introduce ourselves or reintroduce ourselves to one another. So feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You can include your name, pronouns if you would like, your title and organization, your location, and our icebreaker for the afternoon is your favorite home-cooked meal. Seeing some intros in the chat. Very excited to see you all here today. Seeing any Mexican food, dumpling soup. Oh, that sounds delicious. Oxtails, mashed potatoes, Filipino food, enchiladas. Oh, this is amazing. I love the variety. All of these sound incredible. Spaghetti with meat sauce, a classic. We got that on the screen. Awesome. Well, feel free to just keep introducing yourselves in the chat and we'll just continue on with our program. So we'll go ahead and get started with a land and labor acknowledgement. Since we're hosting this meeting in Washington, we begin by acknowledging that across Washington state, we gather on the ancestral homeland of Indigenous nations who have lived here since time immemorial. From the Kalispel and Spokane tribes to the east, the Confederated Tribes of the Yakama Nation to the south, Makah Tribe to the west, Lummi Nation to the north, and many more across the state. Thank you for your stewardship of land and water. We commit to learning, truth-telling, restoration, and respectful relationships. We invite everyone here to learn whose land you're on, pay respects, and take action. To learn a little bit more about what native land you occupy, you can visit native-land.ca. And please take a moment to put what native land you are in the chat as well. We would also like to recognize that this country would not exist if it was not for the uncompensated enslaved labor of Black people. The impacts of slavery and racial violence are ongoing and continue to fuel structural inequities impacting Black communities today. We honor the legacy of the African diaspora and Black life, knowledge, and skills stolen due to violence and white supremacy. And now I'll pass it off to my lovely co-host, Aman, to introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the afternoon session. My name is Iman. My pronouns are she, her. I'm originally from Seattle, but I'm coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. I'm based in the East Coast now. So welcome. I went to UW also. But yeah, I'm out here in Brooklyn. So go to the next slide, please. So just gonna go over some Zoom logistics. If the session is repetitive, so I'm just gonna try to speed through this. But just please feel free to keep your video on, but mute your mics. The session will be recorded and parts of it may be shared. You can change your name by clicking participants and renaming if you want to put your name, pronouns, and organization so we all recognize where you're from. Feel free to use the chat box for any questions that you have. Tristan is on tech support if you have any issues. And feel free to react to things that are being said with comments and questions and using the reactions button at the bottom right corner. And also, yeah, feel free to use emojis, affirm, uplift, second, agree. We want this to be as interactive as possible. And then to turn on closed captioning, click the CC button on the menu bar. So yeah, since we have it available this year, it is auto-generated, so it may not be perfect, but yeah, to enable it, just click the button on the menu bar and feel free to reach out if you need any help. And also please provide self-care and take breaks as and go to the next. All right, so just gonna quickly go over our agenda for the afternoon. So welcome back. We're gonna jump into a workshop from Code Switch. Dr. Tanya Walls and Brooklyn Cruz, Micah Belazier, and Zoraya James will be running something for us very soon. So excited for that. And I'll pass it back to Haley.
Awesome, thank you. So we like to just go over some community agreements and norms for our meeting and workshop today. First, we like to make sure that we're using I statements, so speaking from our own experience and our own work and not necessarily on behalf of someone else. We want to make sure that we're listening to people in the space, just really taking the opportunity to learn about one another's experiences and understand where we're all coming from. Confidentiality. We have a motto here that says, what's learned here leaves here, but what's said here stays here. So really just making sure that we're trying to protect people's confidentiality and specifics of experiences or stories that might be shared today. Acknowledge your privilege. We'd like to recognize all of the privilege that we're all holding within this space and utilize that to step up, step back, which means just kind of monitoring how much space that we're taking up in this moment, creating room for other people to share on their own personal experiences as well, and recognizing the privilege that we might hold. And we also really like to promote language accessibility. So we do something called literacy check or lit check. If there is a term or a phrase or something that you are unfamiliar with the meaning of, you can say lit check and then put that word in the chat. And we'll try to give a definition or explain it a little bit more, just so that way everyone has a clear understanding of what's being discussed today. And now Tristan just launched a poll for you all. So if you're in agreement with these norms, feel free to select yes. And if you're not, feel free to let us know if you have anything that you'd like to add. And we'll just take just a minute or so to get the feedback on if people are in agreement. Hey, awesome. Thank you all for participating. I really appreciate it. We'd now like to take a moment just to do a quick grounding exercise to really ground ourselves in our bodies just before we begin our workshop and activities today. So if it is accessible to you, feel free to stand up, but you're also able to do a couple of these exercises seated as well. So I'll just have all of us inhale our arms and reach up above our head. And just really take the moment to stretch our arms. You can lean over to one side if you would like. Go over to the opposite side. And then exhale our arms back down to the sides. If you're standing, you can grab one foot and stretch your leg behind you. But if you're seated, you can also just extend your leg out in front. Just get a nice stretch, move our bodies a little bit. You can release that leg and grab the opposite foot and stretch that leg back or extend it forward. You can release that leg as well. And we're just going to do one more inhale. Inhale, arms above our head. One more time, just to take one initial stretch. And exhale our arms back down at our sides. Take the moment just to kind of roll your shoulders back. Wiggle your bodies just a little bit. And if you're still standing, feel free to seat yourself back down. Thank you all for participating. Always find it helpful just to do a little breathing or exercise at the beginning of this, just so that way we're grounded in the space. Thank you all for participating.
All right, thank you, Haley, for walking us through that. And with the context of self-care, just going to jump back into reminding you all about the puzzles. Again, we encourage you to engage in this interactive online puzzle if you need a moment to de-stress throughout the afternoon. All Beyond Peak attendees can collaboratively work on a puzzle by visiting any of the links, and I'm going to place them in the chat. Or thank you, Tristan. Please keep in mind that this website requires a lot of bandwidth, so your computer might slow down, and the puzzle website changed to only allow 10 people to access at a time. So please try any of the other listed links if the one you clicked on is full or if the puzzle has been completed. And I know that, yeah, so they should be in the link. Feel free to use them throughout the session. All right. 1 second. And now we'd like to extend a warm introduction to our fabulous workshop presenters, Dr. Tanya Michael Lazier, Brooklyn Cruz, and Zariah James from Code Switch. Dr. Tanya Walls is a mother, educator, a nationally board certified teacher, university professor, restorative practitioner, and Oakland, California native, sharing a BA from UCLA, shout out West Coast, an MA from California State University, East Bay, and a PhD in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis in cultural, international, multicultural education from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Her teaching journey began in Oakland Unified School District in the 1990s, and she currently serves as the founding executive director of education adjacent social transformation nonprofit Code Switch, Restorative Justice for Girls of Color in Southern Nevada. She also serves as a part-time instructor at UNLV, where she teaches restorative justice and multicultural education courses. Her community-embedded restorative advocacy works and is anti-racism, giving practices, advancing girls' rights, and building power with Black and other girls, women of color. Tanya is also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and when not hard at work, she enjoys traveling, reading, writing poetry, and spending time with family. Welcome. Dr. Walls and her co-facilitators will now lead us in a workshop titled Restorative Justice for Our Girls, Humanizing and Engaged Practice that will guide participants through a reflection of what it means to advance girls' rights through a culture of anti-racist, transformative justice informed lens. Participants will walk away with steps they can take, the strategies they can employ to build stronger relationships and power with that promise. Resilient girls they serve. So please join me in welcoming Code Switch.
Greetings, peace, and blessings, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, wonderful. I'm hoping that everybody had the same response as the 5 people I can see on my screen right now. I want to thank the team for introducing us. And I also have to say, man, we had a lot of those parts in our session. So you've done a quarter of our session for us off the bat. So that's really, really cool. We are super excited to be here today and grateful for the opportunity to be in community with you. I am joining, my name is Dr. Tanya Walls. I prefer that you call me Tanya, and I need to be fully transparent and let you know that I am joining you from the homelands of the Cherokee and Muskogee people in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm not in my home office, so I'm going to do my level best to navigate the space I'm joining you from. Thank you for opening in such a thoughtful way. We had planned to do a labor and land acknowledgement, but since that has already been done, I simply want to open in the way that we always open in the Code Switch world. So we like to remember our connection one to each other, as well as our connection to everything around us. So it's important for us to center our time together with you in the spirit of Ubuntu. And Ubuntu is a South African principle that calls on us to remember the importance of the collective community, the importance of our connection, and the importance of embracing that connection in the spirit of harmony and peace. And so when translated, Ubuntu says, I am because you are because I am, we are one. And we are grateful for that connection. Also grateful for the opportunity to honor it. We'd also like to add an element to our land and labor acknowledgement and just acknowledge the spirit of our ancestor. My preferred pronouns are she, her, we, and I've recently adopted we after sitting with one of my elders who is a restorative practitioner and was there to teach and guide me on what it means to hold that responsibility. And she reminded me that it is our ancestors who power us. And so because we situate our work in the African principle of Sankofa, it's important to remember those who came before us. And as Mama Fannie Lou Hamer says, we must never forget from where we came, and we must always honor the bridges that carried us over. And so my hope today is that we can honor those bridges that we're standing on that carried us over, and that in the spirit of Sankofa, we also remember that we do this work with the understanding that we are ancestors in training and building bridges for those who will come after us in the worlds that we can't even imagine. So let our time today be an honoring to those who came before us and a building of the bridges to those who will come after us. And then just to tell you a little bit about myself, I am the founding director of Code Switch. However, I share that awesome honor to be co-executive director with Naika, who's also in the space today. I'm a mother, daughter, friend, community member, mentor. I love poetry. And most important of all, I do this work called Restorative Justice for Racial Equity because I believe in the power that Black girls have. I believe and freedom dream a world for them where they can be their unapologetic, authentic selves and become everything they were sent here to become. And so that's what inspires me. And I'm grateful to be here today to share a little bit about the work that we do, but also to engage in a wisdom exchange to learn from you. And I'd like to pass the talking piece to Brooklyn.
Thank you, Tanya. So my name is Brooklyn Cruz, and my pronouns are she, her, ea. And I am a former fellow for the Transformative Justice Educators Fellowship. I was part of the inaugural cohort, and I had the pleasure of learning from community leaders such as Tanya about restorative justice practices and how to implement them in educational spaces such as where I work. I'm also continuing my work with Code Switch in various manners following this fellowship. And I'll go ahead and pass my talking piece over to Naika.
Hi, y'all. My name is Naika Belizaire. My pronouns are they, them. And I am the co-executive director of Code Switch, sharing that title with Tanya. And I'm also the RFC, which is Rose from Concrete, a peer mentorship program that I started like 2 years ago, I believe. But I'm the program manager of that program within Code Switch. It is amazing to be here in this space with all of you, and I can't wait for all the knowledge and community sharing that we will be doing today. And I pass the talking piece to Zariah.
Hi everyone, I'm Zariah James. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a former participant of Code Switch.
Okay, so here is where we would usually invite introductions, but since we had introductions, we just wanted to take a moment to let you know what path and journey we hope to take with you today, and then we'll jump into our workshop. So it is our hope today that you experience us in 3 ways. First is the learning. We hope that you're able to increase your knowledge of how Code Switch leverages restorative justice and critical mentorship to address the inequities that girls experience. Our work specifically focuses on Black girls, and so we will center our discussion in that population. We also hope you leave with some concrete steps that you can take to advance girls' rights through the culturally affirming approaches that we use. And so if you came to get a sit and get today, we have a surprise for you that is not happening. We are going to jump in and engage in some experiential processes. Hopefully we'll engage some joy making, and then hopefully you will be able to glean some of the practices and think about how to use them in your own space. I also appreciate that we started with some ways that you can engage in self-care in this space. We'll also talk about how we engage self-care as a form of collective and communal care, with the understanding that African and Black culture is often situated in relational, expressive community. And so self-care often looks like collective and community care. We will also build some awareness around language that we use and actions that we take to engage in anti-racist action rather than non-racist action. And so we'll talk about the difference of that. And then we also want to engage you in a wisdom exchange about how you work with girls, especially specific to girls of color, and then articulate some freedom dreams for the girls that you work with. Sound cool? Okay, the way we'll take this journey is we will start with an experience of a Sankofa Sister Circle. We felt it was really important that instead of telling you about our work, we wanted to show you our work. So that's what I meant by plan to take a deep dive into some exercises. And then the second part of our time together, we will do a more formal traditional presentation where we will share the story of Code Switch, who we are, how we came to be, what programs we engage, and how they are connected to humanizing and healing engaged praxis. And then we'll close with a Q&A, with time for us to engage in questions about our time together. And so I'd like to start us with what a Sankofa Sister Circle is, because this is the core to our work. Our goal when working with the girls that we work with is to create healing spaces where they can connect with each other, where they can build community, and where they can express themselves through joy. We often hear of restorative justice practices as only being connected to criminal justice or discipline. However, our approach is a prohibitive and community-based approach where the goal is really developing those strong relationships so that we have a foundation to address conflict when it occurs. We also engage our girls in leadership development, and we consider ourselves not necessarily an organization, but a collective sisterhood. And so when we are gathering, we are always using sister circle practices. And we embed those practices in the indigenous people of Africa, and specifically Ghana, the Akan people, which is why we use the word Sankofa, which is a symbol that means go back and get. Basically, go back and find who you are, tap into the power that you have in the present, and use that to create a better world in the future. So we'd like to engage you in a sister circle today, or some components of it. And for this part of it, we are going to turn off our presentation and just be with each other. And then after, on the other side, we'll pull the presentation back up. And I believe I am passing off to Naika.
Hello, everybody. Before we begin, I want to guide us into not only really understanding the background and context of restorative justice circles and where they come from and how impactful they are, but also taking some time to, although we did have a very nice stretching session, I would like to also bring us into some meditation to really get our mind focused on the work and the learning that we're about to engage in during this workshop. So it is important to recognize the fact that restorative justice circles came from and are still being used in Indigenous and Afro-Indigenous communities all over the world and have been being used for over centuries and centuries of history. They are rooted in community, relationships, and story sharing, and they have birthed restorative justice circles. These circles are spaces of dialogue and truth telling. They serve as spaces for connections, for problem solving, for proactive foundation work, for helping the community learn about the problems within the community. They also serve as spaces to speak authentically, listen deeply to one another, even with your ears or even just with your heart, to open your heart to the experiences and perspectives of other people within your community. They also serve as being culturally affirming and healing spaces. In Code Switch, we have taken the learning, the history of these Indigenous practices and use restorative justice within our own programming. We offer these circles as multi-generational, cultural affirming, and healing spaces to talk about things that people just might be uncomfortable or might not have the opportunity to talk about in the outside world. We bring those safe spaces in our programming, and we have that space to liberate ourselves within our community and talk about whatever it may be, from the silliest of things to the most serious topics. We use these circles for leading our work towards racial justice and liberation within education in K through 12 schools and in our communities. So please keep that in mind when we talk about these restorative justice circles today, because that is the context that is needed. Now, before we go into our meditation, I'd like to open the space up with a quote from the amazing Audre Lorde. And it says, or she says, "It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences." So while we are in this space with each other, I'd like everyone to open your minds to embracing and accepting our differences within a community and learning to take in our perspectives, our words, and our knowledge and embrace it and move to a future where we can engage with one another. Now, for meditation, I'd like everyone to, if you're sitting down, which I think most of you are, relax your legs in the best position possible. If that's crossing your legs, do it. If that's widening your legs and planting them on the floor so you can be more connected to the ground below you, do that as well. Straighten your back so that your heart is reaching towards the space in front of you. And then take your hands, the right hand going towards your heart, the left hand going right where your belly is, under your rib cage. And I'd like us to take a second, just inhale for 3 seconds and exhale for 6. So inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. If you'd like to close your eyes while you're doing this, please do so. Connect with yourself. While you're inhaling, feel your chest rise. And while you're exhaling, feel your chest lower. Feel your belly beneath your left hand. Feel your heart beating beneath your right hand. Accept and love on this body that you have today as it carries you through your best and worst days and has always protected you. Notice that this is the body that your ancestors have passed down onto you and that has helped you be a vessel for your community and serve it for years. Inhale and exhale. While we're inhaling and exhaling again, I'd like us to inhale all the support and love and care that we have gained from the community around us. And then exhale all the feelings of loneliness or non-support or any negative emotions that we have felt when we are not in community. Inhale the most infectious and funny, most memorable times that you have had with your community, with your peers, with the people that you love and care for. And exhale the times where you have not felt in community. Inhale again. Exhale. For this last round of breathing, I'd like us to open our eyes. Keep your hands where they are. And while you inhale, look at the faces of the people on the screen. If you can, if it's only 5 people, that's okay. These people are who we are in community with today. Recognize their faces, their names, whether it's a person on the screen or just who they are written. Recognize that person. This is a community member. This is who we are collaborating with today. Inhale and exhale one last time. Thank you everyone for joining me in that meditation. I hope that has helped put you in the space of thinking that this workshop is not just us spitting words onto you and saying to take this knowledge and that's it. This is a moment of us collaborating as a community, as people who are joining in a journey and fight together for liberation. And I hope that you are in the right mindset to be able to not only take in this knowledge, but use this knowledge to go forth and teach your community as well as put it into action. Now I will pass it on to Brooklyn.
Thank you, Nika. So we've already discussed this. Our wonderful hosts from JFG have done an amazing job discussing community norms. However, I would just like to share, I'm going to put in the chat right now, a few restorative guidelines that we will use as we move forward through this space. We use restorative guidelines in addition to other values that we commit to bringing into our space so that we can have more humanizing connections when we're in their circle and when we're in this sense of community. And so the restorative guidelines that I've posted in the chat is just a way that we can support our temporary community container for today. So number 1, speak from the heart. We want to trust the voice that we have and be confident in the stories that we have to share, but also we want to listen from the heart and be willing to understand and to hear the histories and stories of others. We want to honor perspectives and give grace and be open to differences people may have. We want to take space and make space. So saying just enough so that we are heard while also leaving room for others to share as well. We want to consider intent and impact equally because we all have a shared invested interest in creating communities that support the well-being, healing, success of youth. So we need to be mindful of how we use words and nonverbal actions and avoid judgment, both verbal and nonverbal. Stories remain, learning leaves, just honoring confidentiality again, accept and expect non-closure, meaning it's a bit of a nuance to agree to disagree, but understanding that we might not have the same results from conversations and just learning to accept that that's okay. That again, because we all come in with different perspectives and histories, we might not reach similar conclusions, and that's okay. And then lastly, respect the talking piece. And you've heard that being modeled a little bit so far, but the talking piece is typically what we use to define who in the moment is sharing and also define who in that moment is listening. And so when we meet in person, we often have a physical object that we use as our talking piece that has some sort of collective significance. But in this space, we will just use our words to describe the talking piece. So if you hear somebody say, I'm passing the talking piece to, or I received the talking piece, or thank you for passing the talking piece, that is what we're referring to. And with that, I will now pass the talking piece over to Zaraya.
Hi, everyone. So, as a community, I would like us all to check in. So, today we have a check in phrase, and I'll drop that in the chat box. And it is I feel seen, I feel affirmed, and I feel valued when. So, everyone can share their experiences with those said words and just tell us how you feel. So while everyone is doing that, I would like to share my experience. So for this check-in phrase, I feel seen, I feel affirmed, and I feel valued when I'm around other girls that share the same interests as me, values as me, when I'm around people that I'm loved with. Um, I feel valued when I'm around my friends, when I'm around my family. That's my strong suit. So I hope that you guys have the same values and you can drop those in the chat. So while you guys are doing that, I have a few other questions to introduce to you guys. And one that is valued to me is, given what's here, what values might we need to bring to this space to ensure that we feel seen, affirmed, and valued as a collective? So, as a collective, we probably all share the same values with family and friends, and being around people that make us smile, make us laugh. Another
So,
question.
Zariah, can we wait and give people time to drop their
Yeah.
thoughts into the chat? And then after people have had an opportunity to take a look, we'll go to the questions and give people time to talk about the questions. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm going to open up another question that I'm going to drop in the chat.
Okay, so in the spirit of Ubuntu, I am my sister is me, we are one. First, I want to give a shout out to Zariah. This is her first presentation and she's doing an excellent job. So let's give her some love. Zariah, you got this. And so she did an excellent job of helping us think about how we feel seen, heard, and valued. And that is our check-in. And typically we would do it out loud, but because we have so many here today, we asked you, or Zariah asked you to drop it in the chat. And so now she has some debrief questions that she'd love for us to discuss. And she has about 5. She may ask about 2 and then give us time to discuss. Okay, so feel free to add your voice. Before Zariah re-ask her first question, she'd like for you to take a look at the chat and see all the ways that people feel seen, affirmed, and valued. And I'll also support by shouting some of the things out that you have there. So Kathy Wilson says she feels seen, heard, and valued when her needs are met. Judy says she feels seen, heard when we make space for everyone who is there, inclusive spaces. Robin says when she's with her daughter, close friends, and walking in her purpose. Okay, come through, walking in my purpose. Imani says when she's her full self in the space. When Angie says when she's listened to. Dawn says when she's listened to. All right, and if others have things to drop in. Transitions Cocoon House says advocating for others and when they're with their beloved friends and family. All right, so we have a lot there if you could take a look. And then Zariah, I'm gonna pass it back to you to ask one of your debrief questions that you'd like us to consider and speak about with each other out loud. You got this, girl, you got it.
Okay, so I have one question that really stuck out to me and I'd like you guys all to share. So how might what we need to be similar to and different from what our girls need? So I'm putting the talking piece in the center circle and anyone can come up and share.
Can you please repeat that question for me?
Yes, ma'am. So it was, how might what we need to be similar to and different from what our girls need?
So Zariah, can I take the talking piece? So I think what might be different, I'm gonna start with that, is that I'm older and I have a whole different perspective and experience. And I'm not saying that's bad or good, but mine might be a little jaded because I'm so old. Well, not so old, but I'm just older than the younger girls, right? But what might be similar is that I still may have some of the same experiences. I'm also Black, so maybe some of the same experiences that some of our Black young ladies might have, right? So that's what I think about. Thank you. And I give you back the talking piece.
Thank you. And I agree. One more debrief question I'd like to add is, what are the implications of our answers for our work with girls? And I put the talking piece in the center. Sorry, guys. The question was, what are the implications of our answers for our work with the girls?
I think that by having an understanding of what we need to feel affirmed and validated, we can in turn make sure that we are providing at the very least those qualities to the girls that we work with. So if what we are needing is emotional validation, we can provide that. If it's providing community, we can provide that for the girls that we work with. And then also using this type of question as a check-in for the people around us and making sure that we are being able to provide what they need so they can come as their truly authentic selves.
And would anyone else like to share their answer? I'm going to pass the talking piece in the center. So most answers were dropped in the chat. And now I'm going to pass the talking piece to Ms. Tanya.
All right, so thank you, Zariah, for that, and thank everyone else for sharing their answers to what it feels like to feel seen, valued, and heard. And it was important for us to ask you that question because that's often the question we need to ask ourselves when we're working with At Promise and Resilient Girls. What is it that they need to be valued, seen, and heard? How do we create those spaces that you just narrated about yourself for the girls that we are engaging with in our work? What does that look like exactly? Because it's possible that they need those things as well and more. And so we really want you to reflect on how do we create those spaces? And especially across culture, particularly when our girls' culture, racial background, and ethnicity doesn't match our own. And so that's something that we think about a lot in Code Switch. And we do this thing called freedom dreaming. And freedom dreaming is when we think about exactly the question we asked you. What do we need to feel seen, valued, and heard? And more importantly, what do Black girls need to feel seen, valued, and heard? And then how do we create those spaces? How do we create the spaces that are inclusive, like you said, or that are steeped in equality and respect, or that make it feel like home, like they belong, right? Like they're with family and friends, or that are spaces where they can be themselves. And so we'd like to, before we talk about how we do that, we'd like to engage you in a really quick, given our time, exercise where you do some freedom dreaming. We know that you're here because you advocate for girls. So what freedom dreams do you have for your girls? What do you hope for them? What do you hope for them? I'd like to give you 1 minute to do some freedom dream writing. And if you're not a writer, then air writing, we call that because we're thinking about it in our brain. And then we're going to give ourselves an opportunity to engage in some joy making by sharing what we are thinking around what we hope for our girls, and especially Black girls, and what that looks like. So let's take just a silent minute to jot down everything you hope for. What is it that you dream for the girls you work with? And especially Black girls. And this time it's not in the chat. It's just with you. Let's take 30 more seconds to jot down. And as you're finishing up, I'm going to ask you to come on camera if it's at all possible for this next part, because it's going to be important that we see you. We're going to ask you to do some embodied work. And so if it's at all possible, if you could come on camera, that would be great. Thank you. Hi. Okay, so what is it that you dream for the girls you work with? I want you to think about that. And it would be very easy for us just to say it, but I want us to embody it with our whole bodies. So I want you to think about getting creative for a moment. What would what you wrote look like if you were to design a movement that incorporates your entire body? What would what you wrote look like if you were to design a movement that incorporates your own body? Think about that for a minute. And as you're thinking, I'll tell you what I'm going to ask you to do. We're going to use an exercise called embodied surround sound. And so I'm going to ask you to share what you wrote, if you feel comfortable doing that. And you're going to share it by first expressing it through that full body movement and then speaking it, okay? So you'll share it by expressing it through that full body movement and then speaking it. And the way surround sound works is I'll start to model, and then you just start when you feel like it, when you feel moved, when you're inspired to go, right? And so we will have people joining through their body and their sound when they feel inspired. And it'll be important for us, because I know this is tricky. We're on, online, but it will be important for us to be mindful of what people are sharing with us. And when two voices collide, if we could negotiate just, like you see the screen move and maybe you were thinking, just negotiate stepping back. Cool? Does everybody understand? Okay. All right. And so I also like to say that there are many ways to engage. For some people, they engage in silence, and just because they don't share doesn't mean that they aren't thinking and processing. And then for others, they just need a moment. So we might have some silence around sound before the next sound comes, okay? But if we work collectively, we can make the room pop with our freedom dreams. Are we ready? Yes? Okay. Thumbs up, hearts. All right. So I will start, and then the next person goes when they feel moved, and we just keep going until the surround sound is quiet. So here we go. What is it that we freedom dream for the girls we work with, and specifically Black girls? I freedom dream a world where they are loved, where they are cared for, and where they can be who they were meant to be.
Do we need to unmute? I mean, do I need to put something that I'm going or just go? My freedom dream is that our girls would be their most authentic self and live a life of purpose, knowing that they can be and do all that they desire.
My freedom dream is that our girls can speak their truth and their thoughts and it be okay.
I dream of safety, safety in community, community that is supportive, supportive systems, systems that strive to see our girls, see who they are before we try to change them.
I'll go next.
Sorry, let's move the camera. So, acknowledgement, strength, and then community. So my dream would be that our Black and brown girls are acknowledged for who they are, recognized for what they want to be in their dreams, but also to have the community to enforce and back them up to get there.
I dream that all girls of any color and creed and race and gender get the opportunity to have access to safe education, grow their brains as big as they want to grow them, and then share that information and have it be received with the same respect and access as any other individual.
I can go. I can barely stand, but I freedom dream a world where Black girls, including femmes, and gender expansive youth can navigate the world through their own perspectives and eyes, not the eyes of others, where there are no systems or prejudices that influence how we live, but rather that we are the only ones that can dictate the opportunities and lives that we get.
I freedom dream a world where Black and brown girls can move in the world safe as their authentic selves, and where they can be comfortable enough to dream.
My freedom dream for Black girls, is a world where authenticity is the default.
Okay, so
My freedom dream for girls is that they feel valued, seen, heard, just what you said earlier, because that is powerful. And also that they are beautiful, that we all, that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, not on what it's social media, but that we're all beautiful. Yes.
I freedom dream a world where Black and brown girls and gender expansive youth have access to equal opportunities, the support that they need and deserve from their loved ones, from their peers, from their community, from their educators, and the ability for them to realize their inherent self-worth and their own power.
Tanya, if you're talking to us, you're muted, hun.
Child, I do that all the time. My people know. Okay. I'm going to stop us here, but I invite everyone who wanted to share and did not get to share to drop their freedom dream in the chat. And for those who did share, I dropped your freedom dream into the chat so that we would all have a lasting visual of what we are freedom dreaming collectively. And I invite you to take a look at it and think about what the common threads are, right? What the similarities are, what it is that we are connected to as a collective, because those are the things that we work in coalition for. And so that's really important. And then I'd like to use what's in the chat as a bridge to sharing with you how we at Code Switch take those freedom dreams, because ours are very similar, and put them into programming that really honor our girls, and honor them, all of them, holistically, right? So that they can do all of the things that you said that you freedom dream. And so I am going to share screen once again and continue us on this journey. Can you see the screen? And can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Before I go, I want to share some terms because I think it's important that we have a shared understanding of what Code Switch means when we say these things as we share our work with you. So really quickly, when we talk about girls, we mean all girls holistically in the same way that Justice for Girls does. We're talking about girls who identify as a girl, a femme, non-binary, or gender expansive, right? Across the intersections. And for us, our work calls in girls who are 9 to 24. We also understand that girls are not a monolith and that they maintain differences across many intersections and that their experiences, lived experiences, are also different. By anti-racist work, which is the work that we do, we mean that people, individuals, have demonstrated courage and will. And I think that's important. Demonstrated courage and will to speak up and act out against any and all acts of racism, no matter where they are, right? Institutional, individual, and structural, which is systemic. And that it's not enough to be non-racist, which means that I am against racism, but it has to show in your actions. So walking the talk. For us, racial justice is a state of being, it's aspirational, and we are usually talking about institutional justice and systemic justice. And it looks like no longer being able to predict by racial identity factors the outcomes of one's lived experience. And in K through 12 spaces, that also means our girls' treatment, their achievement, their social, emotional well-being, right? Black girlhood is the work that we situate our work in, and it's research work and programs to eradicate the racialized and gendered inequities that Black girls experience. And just in case you didn't know what Black Girl Magic was, but you see the hashtag all the time, we're talking about the power, the brilliance, the resilience, and the cultural wealth that Black girls embody and bring into a space because of their racialized identities and because of their lived experiences and because of the multicultural consciousness that they developed because of those experiences. And then liberation, in very simple terms, is the freedom to be. It's everything you just freedom dreamed. That's what liberation is. Okay. So at Code Switch, our mission is simple. We like to say it's simply said, but hard fought. We work to eradicate the educational inequities that Black and other girls of color experience. And by default, their peers who are historically marginalized and minoritized, right? We also work with those who parent, care for, and mentor girls because we understand the importance of not just focusing on our girls, but focusing on the support system in the village that wraps them up, right? We don't assume that they come with nothing. They come with a village, and it's our goal to really nurture that village. We envision schools as spaces where they can be their whole selves and where they thrive and achieve and where they don't have to be resilient. Resilience is an honorable trait, but it's not something we should have to be. And so our girls deserve joy, and that is what we freedom dream for them. Our core values, I think, are important to the work we do, and we would encourage people to ask, how do your values show up in the work that you do within schools and within institutions and within community spaces? For us, we have named explicitly Black girls as a value because where we are, Black girls are the only group of girls who are disproportionately impacted by criminal justice inequities, as well as the inequities that show up around the school to prison pipeline. We feel that if Black girls are good, all of our girls will be good. Connection and community, because we are connected to one another. Any one of you left this space, it wouldn't be the same space. We need all of us to thrive and achieve. And so that connection and that community is important. And then last, our value is liberation. We're clear that we're always working for the freedom to be and become exactly who we were born to be. We were founded as a result of inequities that we heard girls talk about when we circled up with them, and specifically myself. I used to be an administrator in schools. I was not pleased with what I saw around discipline. I was not aligned. My values weren't aligned with what I was being asked to do. And when I started talking to girls, I was sad. And so about their experiences. And so it was important for me to engage them in solutions. And so we were founded by a group of Black girls and women who were concerned about how Black girls were treated in schools and wanted to find a solution. Passing off to Naika to talk to you a little bit about how we developed our leadership structure situated in those most impacted by the work that we do.
Okay, so as y'all have heard this, and basically while we've been talking, y'all have probably heard a lot of youth. Code Switch is all about the youth. Well, surprise, surprise, we are youth-led. Code Switch takes a restorative approach when it comes to our service and the work that we do. This means that our board is comprised of a multi-generational group of Black girls, women, including femmes and gender-expansive people. And it's a critical mentored relationship that includes being like collectively doing the work as an organization. Like I said, we are youth-led, and that means that hierarchies are flattened in this organization, and youth between the ages of 14 to 24 take the lead. Everyone else although we do take the lead, everyone else in the organization are our co-leaders. We still work collaboratively in community, and professional women aged 25 and up serve as guides, mentors, and provide essential resources and capital to help the members and girls in Code Switch realize their leadership goals, passions, projects, and whatever it may be. With this, Code Switch does focus on impacted communities and especially Black girls in education. This is because Black girls in grades K through 12 are 4 to 6 more times likely to be expelled and or suspended from school. They are 4 times more likely to be arrested on school campus, and 2 times is likely to be subject to restraint at school. At Code Switch, we believe that the solution to this discrimination and targeted aggression towards Black girls and girls of color are to, 1, eradicate exclusionary and punitive discipline in K through 12 schools and decrease the number of Black girls pushed out due to these policies. 2, increase the number of Black girls who have access to culturally affirming restorative justice practices while in school. And this is through all parts of school, not just discipline or suspensions, but including in the classroom and other resources that the community has to offer. And 3, strengthen the pipeline of Black women leaders, providing mentorship to Black girls. We want the community to be a part of education, not for the school to be separate from the community. Another part of our solution is that Code Switch leverages multi-generational relationships to create pathways for impacted girls to heal, self-advocate, and lead. Our work is guided by 4 pillars that includes critical mentorship, restorative advocacy, youth-led advocacy, and youth participatory action. Critical mentorship is basically when instead of just there being a mentor and a mentee, where the mentor pours knowledge and information into the mentee, and that is where the relationship ends. Critical mentorship looks like both learning from both sides. It's a cycle. The mentor gives knowledge, gives advice, gives perspective, and the mentee also gives knowledge, advice, and perspective. We value the fact that youth and anyone in a mentorship relationship both have the knowledge and experience to be able to impede knowledge on another person. Just because someone is young does not mean that they don't also have some good nuggets of knowledge to give onto someone else. Restorative advocacy would look like basically giving restorative justice advice to others in whether it may be court cases or not court cases, but basically, yeah, court cases would look like court cases or suspensions in schools or disciplinary actions or communities needing restorative justice advocacy help. Code Switch helps in those ways by giving our expertise and the knowledge that we know in order to help others defend them, help them tap into their agency, voice, and choice, and be able to really tap into community power and the power that people already have within themselves to uplift and help them understand the fact that they have a community that they can lean on and always find support in. We also do youth-led advocacy. That is where a lot of our programming is geared toward. Most of the programming in Code Switch is youth-led and can look like a variety of things from the program that I am the manager of, which is youth-led advocacy towards mentorship with youth, to youth-led advocacy looking like giving grants to youth who need it in education in order to eradicate the problems and obstacles that youth may face, and other ways of engaging with our community. And then youth participatory action research would look like right now we're doing surveys to talk to or get perspectives from impacted girls within the community to understand what their lives look like and what change they want from the community themselves. And that's just a little bit of what Code Switch does. Now, going into the programs, y'all have heard me already talk about it, but to talk more about it, or talk more in depth about it, Rose from Concrete is the program that I am the program manager of. It is a summer peer mentorship program developed by me, like I just said. And the mission of the program is to match girls, femmes, and gender nonconforming youth of color in grades 4 through 8 with older girls, femmes, and gender nonconforming youth of color in grades 9 through 12. And their peer mentorship relationship will serve as a learning opportunity where the older mentors are role models while also utilizing a program curriculum that teaches everybody in the program self-love, leadership skills, and also helps them foster a college career and passion or entrepreneurial focused mindset. We do this program all throughout summer and not only give them the opportunities of tapping into their community, learning that they are not alone within the community. There are a bunch of other girls, femmes, and gender nonconforming people of color that are supporting them, that go through things that they do, that also are big dreamers and want to achieve whatever goals they have. But also the fact that we also teach them, how to be a leader, how to love yourself, because before you can go out and find liberation and advocacy for your community, it's always great to first tap into yourself and learn to love yourself and understand who you are and what you want in the world. And also we go into giving them resources to help them realize not only what are their dreams, but how will they tap into college, what careers do they want, and giving them resources such as, school supplies, and also giving them mentors like professional women, femmes, and gender nonconforming people of color who are already in the roles that they want to be in, but will give them the advice and knowledge to keep going. And now I will pass it on to Brooklyn and Zariah.
Thank you, Naika. So the Transformative Justice Educator Fellowship is where I joined the Code Switch family. And so essentially, this is a program that takes women of color or femme-identifying women of color who work in educational spaces and provides them with leadership and guidance on restorative justice practices and encourages them to implement these practices in the education spaces that they work in. And so I currently work for a federal college and career readiness program. And so through my participation in the TJEF, I was able to host a Sankofa Sister Circle with 5 middle school girls over the course of 10 weeks this past spring. And in my circle, we really focused on introspection and reflection. These were students that were recommended to me by the administration of the school I was in. And a lot of these girls had previous encounters with disciplinary action and really were the administration said that it seemed like they were seeking some type of additional support. And so although our group was on the smaller side, they were definitely a mighty group. And I so enjoyed my time working with them. I think that we had such engaging conversation, and it wasn't always what I had expected, but it was always something that they needed and sometimes something that even I needed at the time. And through our conversations, we were able to develop deep connection with one another. Girls who previously either didn't know each other, or even knew each other and didn't get along with one another, were now in the same room talking about their shared histories, their commonalities, and how their current behaviors are impacting not only the people around them, but also themselves and their futures. And so they got to share about their experiences in classrooms, their experiences with friends, their experiences with their families. And through that, again, we were just able to foster some reflection strategies for them. And I got a lot of reports from administration as we moved through the weeks of just the market transformation in their overall attitude and demeanors. I had administration coming up to me saying, "What are you doing in your group? I've never seen, this girl act like this before. She's so she came up and apologized to me for something she had done weeks ago. And I never thought that was still something that was on her mind." And so it was really, really transformative, as it is in the name, for not only the girls, but also for myself to learn about these restorative justice practices. And even then, even after the fellowship had ended, I still have these lasting connections with these girls to the point where they come up and they'll speak with me and they'll ask about what more they can do and how they want to do it. And like I said, although it wasn't what I had in mind, we were still able to create a space where, in their words, that they could share freely about all of their frustration, their joys, their dreams, and their drama, and somebody would actually listen. That's one thing that they felt that they didn't have in their current space, is someone who would listen to maybe the things that adults would typically find silly or not important, and really just be there and be willing to engage in conversation with them. And I know Zariah actually was able to participate as a student. And so I'm going to pass the talking piece to her so she can share a little bit about her story on the student side of the Transformative Justice Educator Fellowship.
Hi, everyone. So I was a participant of the Sankofa Sister Circles, and firsthand, the environment is 100% comfortable. You're able to be vulnerable with several girls. In my group, there was several girls, all grades 9 through 12. We all had similarities. We shared things that we were all going through as far as relationships, families, schools. A lot of us didn't know each other, and the sister circles allowed us to become friends outside of the circles. We talked to each other outside of school, share social medias, and it's a very relaxing place to be in. Like I said, very vulnerable. We cry, we laugh, we play, we have fun. It's just full of love and full of girls that look exactly like us. So we share lots of similarities.
Thank you, Zariah. I'm going to call an audible and move to the end because we are almost to our closing. So I want to bring us all together. And I just want to clarify that we end at 3:30, correct?
You can have as much time as you'd like. We don't really have anything else planned for today. So if you want to go over a little bit, please feel free.
Give us a target.
Let's aim for like 3:40.
Okay, so we are almost to the end. Okay, so back to Naika.
Yeah. Okay. So like I was talking about before when I was talking about youth-led advocacy, all the fact that a lot of the programs that Code Switch is doing now is youth-led. They all started from this amazing program called the Youth Justice Fellowship. Within this fellowship, we have high school students passionate about improving girls' access to equal education, and they basically learn about what it means to not only be a leader within your community, how to be a community organizer. They learn about all the systems of oppression that girls go through and how we can combat that. And then we also uplift their dreams of how to combat those systems of oppression by helping them learn and foster their own freedom dreams called passion projects. With these passion projects, we basically, I guess, like in the second half of the program, help them nurture, figure out what those passion projects are through mentorship, advice, perspective, aid, research, whatever it may be. And then at the end, after the fellow tells us about the passion project and is like, here it is, if it's accepted, we give them a stipend in order to be able to actualize that passion project within their community. And that is how Rose from Concrete was created. I was a youth justice fellow, my passion project was accepted, I got the stipend, and I was able to create this amazing program that has been lasting for 2 years, and this year or next year will be my 3rd year doing it. And then the other programs that we have within Code Switch were also created just like this. So we are very passionate about youth-led advocacy through actually having youth do the work and actualize it through help from their community.
And the program you see featured on this slide is called the Overachievers Education Fund. We had a young fellow who was a high achiever, but because of financial hardship, wasn't always able to access opportunities in education that would have furthered her dreams to go to college and become a STEM involved professional. And so through Code Switch, she was able to get those freedom dreams met, but she wanted to pay it forward. And so she established a fund, a micro grant fund, to fund students who have dreams that they want to have access to in education, but don't because of finances. And so this is now a staple program in our menu of programming. This is the 3rd year, I believe, too. And they offer micro grants to K through 12 students who might need help with college applications and or, you know, sports equipment or AP classes, but they don't have the fee to pay for the test. It can be anything. And the youth run this micro grant, including getting funding for it. So this is just an example of what happens when we allow youth to lead and we listen to what they want and support that. Is this me or you?
Oh, me. Yes, along with that program, we also ensure that our work is making change through getting feedback from our youth. These are the numbers that we have found from the restorative justice work that everyone or the youth in Code Switch have done. We've impacted 82 young women who have participated in the restorative justice sister circles. Four of the students we have helped who are in danger of being expelled have received restorative justice advocacy. 276 local educators received professional development help, and 15 schools participated in the educator development programming. On the side, you'll see one of our youth, Gianna Perry. She is a Youth Justice Fellowship mentee, and you can read about her experience within Code Switch right there. But she is just one of the amazing, and very, very talented youth that are in Code Switch that are starting to or currently making very impactful change within the community due to actualizing their own power through the help of restorative justice.
Okay. I'll move past this one and let you talk about that one.
Oh, yes. This is one of the things outside of not outside of it, but within the Youth Justice Fellowship, there are not only opportunities to learn about being a community organizer and a leader within your community and actualizing a passion project, but Code Switch does the amazing work of giving us resources and opportunities to tap into our community during the program, outside the program, wherever it may be. We are always trying our best to tap into our youth and give them opportunities within their community. One of these opportunities that I was able to get was to help Senator Dina Neal pass Senate Bill 327, also known as the Crown Act. It is an act that prohibits the hair-based discrimination of individuals within school, work, and all over the state. It is now completely prohibited within the state of Nevada, and that was an amazing opportunity that I got to do through the connections of Code Switch. And Code Switch has also been able to help a bunch of other youth have connections just like this, like the ones that were above that we had to skip a little bit, where they were able to be connected to do to PBS and have a section there and impact people through their own voices.
Okay, so before we kind of land the plane on what are the strategies that we invoke, I just want to share that one of the strategies that we really want to amplify is really simple, and it goes like this: just listen to our girls. Listen to our girls. You heard us talk a lot about flattening hierarchies, and really understanding that our girls, even though impacted by systemic inequities or engaging trauma response because of lived experiences connected to poverty and other issues, they have a lot to say and a lot to share. And I think you guys already, not you guys, please excuse that language, you all amplified that with your freedom dreams. The power is already there. And so our goal is just to circle up with girls, to create the spaces for them to talk, for them to heal from the racial trauma, to be themselves without judgment, and then to open up pathways. Our work is about, or my work as an adult is about opening up pathways for girls to lead. So even the fact that I'm here today with 3 of our youth leaders is a norm for us. Whenever I'm asked to speak, it's important for me to bring those young women who are most impacted by what we do. And it's also important for them to lead. And so flattening hierarchies, using restorative communication processes like the ones we tried to model a little bit here today, so that girls feel like their voice matter. And then I think this is Brooklyn and Aika will talk a little bit about what are some of those strategies.
Definitely. Just to continue on what Tanya was saying, really about letting them lead. I think with that, you have to let go of expectations. Like I had mentioned when I was discussing my experience in TJEF, I had an idea of how I thought I wanted my Sankofa sister circles to go. I even had an idea of the kinds of things that my girls would bring to the table when we were discussing, and it was nothing like that. And that was totally okay. In the end, at the beginning, I was almost freaking out a little bit because I was like, oh, well, this isn't, exactly what I had imagined. But I challenged myself, and with the help and the guidance of the mentors in the fellowship, I did exactly that, letting them lead and really listening to them and hearing them for what they for where they were and what they had to say, even if it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. And through that, they had some really great ideas about the current state of their situation in the classroom and in the school and in their communities, as well as ideas for how to alleviate some of those challenges that they're facing. They're the ones who suggested that they wanted to have a conversation with the principal of the school and bring forward some of the issues that they were facing in the classrooms as it pertained to racial discrimination from teachers as well as from other students. And so that was a really great opportunity that they suggested. And as a facilitator, I was able to help put together to give them that platform so they could share it. During that conversation, I said nothing. It was fully them and the ideas that they had prepared beforehand that they brought forth to the principal, who also took the time to listen and hear and brainstorm with them ways that they could implement changes. Do you have anything to add, Naika?
I was gonna say, y'all both definitely hit the two pillars on the right. The last one that I was to say is how we work also to implement policies and policy changes and critical mentorship into schools to ensure that there's a long-lasting change and impact of putting restorative justice within education, such as incorporating culture and race and mentorship services, whether it may be peer mentorship or even just ensuring that, like how Deja Dunlap, one of the youth that we have that created the Overachievers Fund, she makes sure to implement the fact that people go through different obstacles because of their culture and race, and they would need different types of aid and resources, or banning zero tolerance policies and harsher practices that are towards being racist, or just implementing restorative justice in schools, such as like the teacher educator justice fellowship and things like that.
Definitely. And I think too, being willing to think outside the box. I know that with JFG, we all work for advocacy in different fields, and just being willing to use whatever space that you're in and however you have access to youth and to girls, and use that to your advantage. For myself, I don't necessarily work with justice or necessarily even behavioral challenges with girls. I work primarily with college and career readiness. But even then, I was able to use my platform to be able to give girls a voice and to be able to listen to them and hear what they need and see what I can use as a mentor to be able to uplift them and move them forward along in their freedom dreams for themselves.
Okay. And anything we didn't speak about specifically, you will have the slide presentations, I hope, or we're willing to share. So at least you have these last two slides. Okay. Okay, the other thing that we really want to amplify is we often talk about self-care, and sometimes in ways that can lean into our privileges, right? But we also want to amplify this idea of self-care as a form of collective care, right? Because if we aren't good as individuals, we can't contribute to the collective. And if we can't contribute to the collective, then our communities don't get what they need. And so we wanted to say that one of the things that we do with our girls is really give them opportunities to broaden their scope of how they care for each other, and to understand that care can also look like being in your community and relying on your community. And so you heard Zariah talk about you know, her circle experience and what it gave to her. I don't know, Zariah, do you want to expand any more or talk about the ways that you all learned to care for yourself?
Yes, I'd like to talk about that. So when joining the program, I was one day late, but once I got inside of the sister circle, we were all given journals and we were all giving little like care packages full of lip gloss, stickers, little spoolies for your like your eyebrows, your eyelashes. So we all felt as one and felt, um when given things like lip gloss, you put that on all the time. So we all shared that as one. We also did one activity where we wrote down affirmations about one another. So we all shared something that we liked about one another. And also, um, we also shared like one thing that maybe we could work on. So it was just a very honest and loving circle.
Okay, right. And then some of the things that we've even seen in this space, creative expression. So doing embodied work, and embodied work can also be engaging content. It doesn't always have to be socio-emotional expression. Mindful meditation, exercise. Those are things that we can do collectively and self. And then for community, we use these words: offering, reaching, creating, hosting, and remembering, and really try to impart on girls how they can contribute to their community. Oftentimes we position impacted people as if they are victims needing to be saved or, you know, taken care of. And they often have things to give. And so helping them see that and tap into that power as well is what community care is all about. And I know it's time to go, but if you email us questions, we'd love to answer them. I want to honor the time and space of everybody today. So just, hit us up. I will put our contact information on the last slide. And we also would love to have feedback so that we as a collective can grow and learn from this experience as well. So feel free to use the QR code now and or when you get the slides again to share with us. That would be helpful. And then we just invite you to exit by typing one thing into the chat, and then we're done. We're done. So choose something to exit the space with today and type it into the chat and take a look at what your colleagues and peers are putting there. And as we're exiting the space, we will stay just in case people have questions that they want to have answered as folks are leaving.
And we do have just a couple of announcements actually. So if folks could stay on for just a few minutes, we can get to our closing.
All right. Thank you so much to Code Switch for that amazing interactive workshop. I personally learned so much, and thank you all for creating that space for us. Just really quickly, we'd like to take a moment to uplift the Hilltop Artist Program and promote their winter glass sale. Hilltop Artists is a youth development arts nonprofit in Tacoma operating deeply impactful program since 1994 with broad community support and a track record of success. You can support the youth in this program by stopping by the Gymnasium Gallery at Hilltop Heritage Middle School in Tacoma on Saturday, December 2nd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and purchase some beautiful hand-blown glass pieces. And more information can be found online. And Tristan, can you put the link or the chat, or I can as well? Thank you. Just wanted to uplift that really quick. And now I will pass it on to Haley to close out.
Awesome. Thank you. As with all JFG programming, we highly value and appreciate all of your feedback. So if you have a few extra minutes right now, after this closing, we would love for you to fill out our Beyond Pink evaluation form. We would really appreciate just having your feedback and really getting to know and understand your experience with this program. Tristan just shared the link in the chat box now, and you can feel free to open that and have it in another browser, so that way it's up after closing out this meeting. And now I'll pass the mic back to our program director, Tristan, to conclude our summit.
Thanks, Haley. Wow. Okay. So I say this every year, but this was like the best Beyond Pink we've ever had. I am so uplifted by the knowledge that was shared in our space today. Yes, Judy, we're going to leave those puzzles open forever. So feel free to use those as self-care, and maybe you'll see another Beyond Pink attendee in there in like a week or maybe over the holidays. But I just want to take this moment to extend my deepest gratitude to everybody in this space, but particularly these people who made today possible. I'd like to thank Dr. Nina Walker this morning for her incredible keynote speech. I'd like to thank Tanya, Naika, Zoraya, and Brooklyn for this absolutely incredible workshop. This was really moving and very poignant. I'd like to thank Savannah Parker, who was our super talented youth poet this morning, and thank her for sharing her art with us. I'd like to thank the JFG board members whose collective efforts guide our mission forward. I'd like to thank Ann Muno, JFG's executive director and visionary leader, who brings passion and thoughtfulness and drive to everything she does for girls and gender expansive youth in our state. And can we please show some emojis or some snaps or give it up for our incredible youth facilitators? We had Haley, Iman, and Natasha this morning. Thank you all so much for all that you do for JFG, and thank you for your profound dedication to ensuring that JFG is youth-led. And finally, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for coming today. Your unwavering dedication to prioritizing the needs of girls and gender expansive youth in your work is really, truly commendable. And it's through our collective efforts that we can successfully pursue our shared objectives of dismantling oppressive systems, eradicating injustice, promoting racial equity, and ensuring that youth thrive in our communities across Washington and across the country. Your presence at the summit today is a testament to your commitment to championing justice for girls. And thank you for being a part of our community. And last thing before we adjourn, I would love to get a quick snapshot photo just so that we can commemorate this day. So if you would like to turn on your camera, we'll give you just a second to get set up. And I will stop sharing here. And if you don't feel like turning on your camera is accessible to you, if you want to do an emoji reaction, that is a cool way to participate as well. So I will give you a countdown. I see some primping and preening. I love it. Maybe it's the first time you've seen yourself today, potentially. And we'll take the photo on 1. I'll count down from 3, starting now. 3, 2, 1. Big smile. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody put your hands together, give us some snaps. Thank you to our facilitators and our workshop leaders. And we will see you again next year for our 10th annual Beyond Pink. And in the meantime, I'll follow up next week with all of these great resources and slides. All right, everybody, be well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next year.